It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Natalia Papu-Carone, research analyst at Circular Economy, the Netherlands. Natalia will introduce us to circular textiles value chain, end-of-use textile disposal, collection, sorting, and recycling.
Okay, hi, thank you for joining this session. Just to introduce myself briefly, my name is Natalia. I'm a research analyst at Circular Economy. I come from Argentina originally. I came to Europe for my master's studies, and now, since half a year ago, I've been working at Circular Economy. And what is Circular Economy? We're a not-for-profit, and we work with businesses, with cities, and with governments together to drive the transition towards circularity. And we do that by working together with all of these institutions in order to deliver practical and scalable solutions in order to transition to the circular economy. But we have a challenge facing us, and that is that our world mostly produces in a linear way. This means we extract resources, we refine them, we process them, we produce them, we sell them, we use them, and then when we don't want them anymore, we dispose them or throw them away. This means that not only are we using resources that are non-renewable, that cannot be renovated in a tremendous and accelerating rate, but we're also using resources that are renewable at rates which don't allow them to regenerate. And what we do is we measure by a methodology that comes from a material flow analysis. We measure the material, the input of materials that enter the global economy, how we process them, how we produce them, how we use them, and then at the end, how we dispose them. And the result we're getting so far is that we're only 9% circular. The world is only 9% circular. This means that of all the input materials, only 9% is getting recycled into the flow. If we take the example of the fashion industry, you might have seen this picture. It's the Aral Sea, and it's very near to cotton crop production. This sea has dried in a matter of 30 years due to the intensive extraction of water. So basically, we're taking resources, we're manufacturing almost 92 billion tons of fibers each year, and we're making 80 billion tons of clothing. So that's a lot. But we're also buying at an accelerating rate, and in the last 15 years, consumption has increased by 60%, so we're buying 60% more, but we're also using clothes for half as long. And if you take the average in Europe, for example, we are using yearly only 30% of our closets, which means that 70% of them yearly go unused. And when we are done with our clothes, when we don't want them anymore, when they're worn out, or we don't think they fit the trend anymore, we just dispose them. And some countries have collection systems for used textiles, and some others don't. So most of it is ending up in landfill today, or in incineration. But disposing of our clothes is not the only way in which we generate textile waste. We also generate textile waste from production, from clipping waste. Of course, if you have a very efficient supply chain, that number will be lower, but it can be up to 10–15% of your total production, your remnants or clipping waste. You also have overstock or unsold products in your production. But also from post-consumer, when we dispose of our clothing, almost 75–85% is lost. It's lost to landfill or to incineration. And we're not only wasting because things are worn out and they have lost their full quality, but we are also wasting because the trends are each time faster and they're turning around. So we perceive the obsolescence of a product much faster. That if you see, this is a nice video from a nylon stockings commercial around the 50s, and they were proving the strength of the fiber. If you take an average nylon stocking right now, I'm not sure it would last this long. So also the increasing consumption has to do with quality of the products, but also trends. What we say in the textiles team at Circular Economy is that we're basically facing a textile mountain, and it's not the nicest picture, so I'm sorry for that, but we're facing a huge textiles mountain. So what we ask ourselves is, what happens when you throw away your clothes, right? Where does away go? What does away mean? And if we take a look at some numbers of data that we have, and this is averages from Northwestern Europe, that is the region where we work with some of the projects, so UK, Netherlands, Belgium, some parts of Germany and some parts of France. 70% of the textiles are lost to mostly incineration because they end up in general waste flows, so they're mixed up with other waste. Of the 30% that is collected, that means that either people take them to collection bins or they deposit them in brands that have their bins to collect textiles, or there are many collecting schemes out there, but 30% of it gets collected. And what happens is that some of these clothes can be reworn again as they are, so they can be sold in second-hand markets, and others don't. Others are worn out, they're too teared apart, they're no longer fit for reselling. So 64% of them can be sold again. Some of it is sold in the local market, and many of it is also exported to other countries, which means that we would also have to look into what happens to those textiles once they are sold and then disposed in other countries with different regulations. So there are 36% of them that are non-rewearable. And basically, they are textile materials, the textile fibers, which have a huge value, but how can we input them back again in the production flow? There are many recycling technologies out there and upcoming. How do we connect these collected textiles to these recycling technologies? So what we say is that waste is nothing more than a failed relationship. And what this means for us is that there are ways of redesigning the business model, the sourcing strategies, the system around it in order to connect resources to life cycles in a much more effective way. So from a circular economy perspective, there are different strategies we can take upon. Firstly, maintaining our products much longer, so this maybe has to do with the quality of the products or the perceived obsolescence of trends. We also have the possibility to reuse them or resell them once they're no longer fit for that specific purchase that has been done. We also have the possibility of refurbishing or remanufacturing them and get them in the manufacturing flow again. And as a last resource, we should have the possibility to recycle the fibers and really process the textile material again and utilize it in a new way. And in this way, we're reducing the amount of resources extracted from nature. So I will just show you a few examples of projects we're working on at Circular Economy, and specifically in the textiles team. And I will focus mostly on one project that is about the end-of-use value chain, as the title explained. So firstly, we work in projects in two ways. So we say that to achieve a zero-waste textile industry, we either want to prevent this mountain from building up, or we want to beat that mountain. So the textiles that are already wasted, how can we reinsert them in the flow? And we do this in two ways, and one, preventing the mountain for us means increasing the capacity of industry, but also of education to adopt circular strategies. And to beat the mountain for us has to do with supporting the building of data, infrastructure, and technology that enables the revalorization of textile waste at its end of use. For this, we empower these projects through different strategies. And if we're talking about preventing the building of the mountain, so increasing the awareness of circular strategies, we do think one of the ways is training the people who have the decision power out there to really make the change and train them on the concepts of the circular economy, but also on specific circular strategies. So we do work with internal teams from different brands and educational institutions in 4 main areas. One is sourcing and design, the other is business models, the end of use, and also the communications and branding strategy of all of these practices. We also have worked together with 3 companies, so Orta, the denim mill, BF, brand corporation, and Opping, which cannot be seen that much there, mattress manufacturer. We worked with them to develop a fashion tool which mainly enables you to assess your circularity and guides you towards which type of strategies you could adopt to really implement changes in your production and in your supply chain. We are also working right now, and we are kicking this off next week. We are working on supporting 6 brands through the development of a rental or e-commerce business model. These are brands who have a traditional business model and want to implement also an aspect of rental or e-commerce. So how can they really make more effective use of the resources they already have to implement this type of business models and really stretch or extend the active lifetime of garments. But what I really wanted to focus on today was about beating the mountain. How can we really reduce this mountain that is already there? And we work together with 5 partners in a European Commission funded project, so an Interreg funded project called the Fiber Sort. The Fiber Sort is basically an automated sorting technology that categorizes textiles by their fiber composition. So it can tell if a textile is a 40-60 cotton polyester blend, or it can tell if it's a wool garment or a 100% polyester garment. And I will show you later how. And here we work with the whole end-of-use value chain. We work with our collector partners in the Netherlands. There are Reshare, the Salvation Army in the Netherlands. A sorting facility, which is Smart Fiber Sorting, which has this machine running and in use in their sorting facility. And the technology was developed by Balban Baling Systems. You can find them in booth in Hall 6. And they do have a small machine that has the Fiber Sort scanning technology in it, so you can also test and see if the garments are being read in an accurate way, and they will explain much better the whole procedure with the machinery in place. And we work with 2 recyclers, which are Procotex and Warnegen, and they are chemical and mechanical recyclers, and they basically test if the outputs of this sorting technology are as accurate as the machine says. So they are testing that what they receive, for example, is 100% wool, if that's what the machine said. What is our aim or our end goal with this is that this portion of recyclables, we want to really re-enter them in the production flow. And to do that, we have to be able to sort them and divide them and categorize them by the type of textile they are. So what the Fiber Sort does in a very schematic figure is it takes a garment, you place it in the conveyor belt, it scans it with near-infrared technology, so it's able to detect, comparing it with a textile database, which type of material it is. So it can say, for example, it's a cotton garment. And what we are developing in the project right now is the adding of a structure scanning, so to be able to recognize if it's a woven garment or a knitted garment. And then we're also adding a color sorting technology, or a color sorting scanning, that will enable, for example, cotton knitted garments that are blue to go into mechanical recycling altogether and separated from the others. This is very important for mechanical recyclers, especially because if you're looking into re-dyeing the fabric, then the amount of textiles that you will need are, the amount of chemicals you will need, are much lower, and it also lowers the impact of reprocessing the fibers. So basically, how we see the fiber sort is the potential to prepare or enable the recyclers to get accurate feedstock of what they need to be able to recycle fibers, turn them into yarn fabric again, and re-enter the production flow. Once they enter the production flow, and I will take this very briefly so you have some minutes to ask questions, is we're working together with some partners, for example, Recover, the partner in Spain, to develop cotton recycling pilots to enable to work together with the recyclers, but also with brands, and work together to test these materials, what potential they have, and how do we do to use as much amount of recycled content, but still enable to meet the performance expectations that brands need in their yarns and in their fabrics and eventually in their end products. So I will leave it there. Thank you very much for listening.
So any questions to our speaker?
How many times you can recycle the cotton, for example, or the polyester? Do you study about this?
It depends. We don't study it within the projects that we have ongoing now. But this is one of the challenges ahead, of course. So within the scope, for example, of the FiberSort project, we reach the point of, okay, we prepare this feedstock for recyclers, and then our next step, and very welcome to join us, will be to test the performance of the recycled fiber and how many times. There are some solution providers out there that yesterday told me that polyester, for example, sometimes may be recycled if you're repolymerizing up to 4 or 5 times. But these are, pilot scale testings, so you have to wait and see.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you about the sorting tool. Why you wanted to sort the knitted and the woven from each other, and what is the background for that, and what the next steps do you see?
So one of the challenges that we encountered during the project was that for mechanical recycling to open up the fibers, you need different tractions for woven or non-woven, for woven or knitted. So the knitted sometimes opens easily than some woven structures. So basically sorting it that way would also enable more efficiency of the machines that are opening the fibers later. So that was the aim, and it will be in the next 3 or 4 months there. So then we will be able to test the relevance with the outputs and the fiber sorted materials themselves. Thank you.
Hi, do you know how to split blend the fibers, like for example polyamide with elastan or polyester with elastan? You know, there's such a big problem now for recycling, so
Yes.
Are you working on that?
No, not exactly. So the sorting technology, what it does, it categorizes the garments or the textiles into specific fractions. So now we can identify that a garment is, for example, 80% polyester, 20 polyamide, and we can put it in a specific bin and a specific fraction. But the fiber sort itself cannot separate the blends. So basically, that is a next step for recyclers. And for example, one of the partners we work on, which is Rosengren, which we work with, which is Rosengren, has a separation technology for cotton and polyester. So they separate polycottons, and they're still at pilot scale. But yeah, this is a real struggle, especially elastan. Yesterday I was visiting recycling technology, which recycles again into pellets, polyester, and they said that with polyester elastan blends that where the elastan melts, they have no problem in getting the pellet back, but obviously they're not separating it, so it will still be in your new resource. So you will have a polyester elastan again. Still, someone wants to research that, and there are some research ongoing, sorry. The Wageningen University in the Netherlands is researching elastan separation from blends. So they're still very initial stage, but that's also interesting to look at.
So when you separate the polyester cotton, and then going for mechanical recycling, so can the polyester cotton be recycled mechanically?
So if you're mechanically recycling, you will open up the fibers and then you will have the polyester and the cotton together. What Rosengren does is a chemical recycling through which they separate the cellulose pulp from the polyester chips. So you would get those two inputs, but through mechanical recycling, you would get them mixed up again in your fiber.
Thank you. The last question. Okay, so thank you very much, Natalia.
Thank you.